Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everyone today? I hope you're all good. Yeah, another day, another solo stream. What can I say? It's been an extremely busy week for our team, so we had to split responsibilities, and I got the long stick or the short stick. I don't know. I'm still enjoying this one, so hopefully you will enjoy it too. How is everyone this morning? I see a few people. Hey, Fuel Snubble. Morning. I know that you're here for the music. We're doing our best to entertain our audience. So thanks for the kind comments. It took a long time to select this music, by the way. And we had to find something that did not have any rights. And yeah. Hey, Zimbabwe. Look at that. Thanks for joining us. I assume from your name that you're all the way from Africa. But if I am assuming wrong, then yes. And yes, happy time zone, Bolt. You're absolutely right. It should be happy time zone. Hope everyone is okay today. I'm driving solo. We have no news. I mean, we have some news. We have no sponsors today. We have no one from the team. And I am going to be just doing some coding. Happiness is mandatory in this stream. Absolutely. You have to join us with a smile. And I hope everyone is happy this morning. I mean, it's Friday. It's just the end of the week. We have some exciting coding to do. Microsoft.identity.Web plus some new MS SQLClient authentication with Azure Identity. So it is going to be fun. Trust me. Yeah, Friday payday. No, payday is next week, isn't it? I thought it was payday next week, 31st. It's March. At least for me, it's next week. So if you are getting paid today, then it's definitely a reason to celebrate. Cool. We'll wait a few more minutes, see if anyone else joins, and then we're going to rock and roll today. I am thinking about putting some kind of a to-do list as we progress through the stuff. So as we decide what to build, you can see it. In fact, we can do something hacky for today, and then we'll work on something a little bit more robust. How about that? Robust. Is that the right word? So let's bring OneNote today. And let me make this bigger. And then we'll add it on the corner at the top. .NET 6 might improve the SPA auth story. Do you know anything about that? Interesting. I haven't heard anything about it with regards to the .NET story, because the SPA is not related to your backend .NET, right? So you have the .NET. You say robust and then open. I mean, it is a robust solution. It's been out there for 20 years now, and it works consistently. I mean, Notepad is so pervasive that if you try to do something, like restart your machine and Notepad is up, it's so robust that it won't let you restart your machine unless you save your file. So, it is a robust solution. Yeah, robust can have multiple meanings. Okay, I get it. So, as I was saying, Zimbabwe Dungeon Master is asking if .NET 6 will improve the SPA auth story. That's a good question. I haven't heard anything about that. I know that our team is working with the Visual Studio team to definitely improve the auth story inside Visual Studio as part of the ID. Now, SPA is your front end, and I suspect that you're using .NET 6 as your back end. That means that in the front end, you will have to use MSAL browser if you're doing vanilla stuff, vanilla JavaScript, or something like React or Angular if you're using one of those frameworks. That story is not changing. We're pushing ahead with these things. And then once you authenticate, you can acquire tokens with that MSAL library and then pass it down your ASP.NET app. So I'm not quite sure what you mean. I don't know if you heard anything. If you have anything to link me to, that would be great. Or if there are any specific pain points, then we would love to hear about them. And make sure that you join us on Discord. It's at the very... Am I pointing the right way? Let's see. I need to see my hand. This way. The other way. Okay. It's that way. At the very top of the corner. Thank you, Bolt. Discord. aka.ms45. So Discord. Join. If you have heard anything, then we would love to talk about that. Monkas on the popular articles this week. What does Monkas mean? I have no idea. Just a bunch of security and privacy issues. Okay. And then some folks complain about the identity server incident. And some from Microsoft said that they will look into it at .NET 6. Ooh, that is a brave statement. I have not been looped into that, so I have no idea what's happening with identity server. I know that it has caused a bit of a rift in the developer community, especially with Identity Server going private. And I suspect that they needed a business model to support and sustain the work that they're doing. So it was their decision. From a .NET perspective, you should still be able to integrate, but I don't know if we're working on templates, and I suspect that you're talking about templates, so you can automatically attach to that. We'll have to see. And in fact, I can go and look. And if you want to continue the conversation, make sure to join us on Discord. And this stream will be available on Twitch afterwards, so you can go there and have some fun on YouTube as well once we finish. Okay, now a couple of news, and then we're going to jump into that. So let me keep my promise. So what are we going to do today? We're going to do news. Then we're going to do 425 So, the app that we built with our friend Julie Lerman a couple of weeks ago on the stream. We'll modernize. We will modernize the app by doing two things. One, we will add 42580. So you got it. You got it, Yanisku. I hope you're well. The existing app is actually pretty. How would I say that? I wouldn't say archaic. I would say pretty backwards compatible. Like it uses Entity Framework latest, so EF Core, but it was using a hard-coded connection string, so we used Key Vault for that. But the app is still using an identity, the ASP.NET Identity model, which we don't want. We want to replace that with Microsoft.Identity.Web and Azure AD for the first time. And then the second one, we are going to add. There's a new SQLClient that actually supports managed identities and Azure Active Directory for authentication, which is awesome. All we need to do now is hook that up. Okay, so modernization, which means that we will add Microsoft.Identity.Web, and we'll rip out the old ASP.NET, and then we'll add MS SQL Client, that's one word, isn't it? Or SQL Client should be one word, plus Azure.Identity, which is the authentication library for the Azure SDKs. And again, this is probably going to be a little bit of a crude kind of a setup. It is not fully working yet. And as I was looking at the documentation, it's not perfect, but we are working with these teams to make it even better. We'll make it even better by working directly with Azure.Identity, because we'll have to hack it a little bit. I don't know, is hack a good word? Probably not. We will have to squeeze it to work in the way that I would like it to work consistently across the board. So this is what we're doing today. I hope you'll enjoy the stream, and if you have any questions, then make sure to use the chat so we can do that. So let's talk about news. What do we have in terms of news? Well, we have something that went GA as of this week, and that is the ability to customize your branding on Azure AD using Graph. So I don't know how many times you have to CI/CD your customization on the Graph, but I suspect that if you would do it by code, it's consistent. So if you need to manage multiple Azure AD tenants and you need to have the consistent customization, then there is a new resource type. And we have organizational branding now as part of the Graph API. And I suspect that this was part of the Azure AD Graph, and now it's been moved to the Microsoft Graph, which is part of the whole modernization of our API. So there you have it. You can actually code your customization of the Azure AD Graph, of the Azure AD portal. So you will look and feel the way you want it via code. I don't know if that's exciting or not in terms of news, but it was one of the news. It's a GA feature now, so it's fully supported. Just go and have a look. And the second one, which is not as much of a news as it is a confirmation or a validation, I would say, that SSPR is a fantastic feature. Now, Azure AD provides SSPR, and I haven't had to ever speak to anyone about resetting my password. It is amazing. So SSPR allows you to go and self-manage your passwords. Apparently, it costs $70 per help desk query. Somebody has gone and estimated the cost. So imagine in a company of 200,000 people, if they have to deal with 1,000 issues every day, that's $70,000 spent in resetting passwords for 1,000 people. Crazy, right? So this article just goes to show what the benefits are, and then it says that if you are going to do it, it's a good idea to force everyone to do it. Having half the staff doing it and half the staff not doing it is not efficient. So there are ways to force that across the board. And it's not referring directly to Azure AD. It's in general, it talks about they took our jobs. Well, trust me, I think the IT people have plenty of stuff to worry about and do while they're dealing with Azure AD or in general identity systems. So I don't think these jobs are going anywhere. It's like saying machine learning is going to take over coding, but trust me, our coding abilities and machine learning or AI is nowhere near in taking our jobs as developers yet. As yet, I don't know. It could be just around the corner. We don't know it. We'll wake up one day and then we'll have machines writing their own code. And that would be a scary day, right? Okay, and that was it. I mean, I haven't spent enough time this week to going over the news and looking at what we should be worrying about or what we should be worrying about. Let's put this over here in the corner. Will that work? I think it should work, right? Just trying to squeeze everything into the corner here. Okay. And this is our app at the bottom. So this is the 45 app that we built with Julie Lerman. So we're ready to do some code. There's just so much to do for every software project. You're absolutely right, Zimbabwe Dungeon Master. I need a shorter name for you. There's so much to do. Just fixing the bugs will keep us busy till the end of eternity, right? Not even writing new software. Forget writing new software. Think about how long it takes to fix bugs every single day. It's a sad realization that most of our time is spent fixing CSS and placements of objects in a web view rather than writing software to solve cancer and cure cancer and solve other problems. But that's for another day. Blazor Mr. Magoo. Have you seen the new series Next AI writing its own code? I haven't. Send us a link and we'll happily look into that. Does that mean that I'm just done? Spend all my time in CF ARM templates. Are you using, have you started using Bicep? Bicep, pretty cool. What is CF? I know ARM templates is good. CF, Cold Fusion? Oh, it's a Disney Plus? Okay, perfect. I have Disney Plus. That's enough of a pointer. I'll try to find it. Not only bugs, lots of software projects have another software project for administrative tasks and tools. Oh yeah. Every company has a million, CloudFormation, yes. Has a million portals that they have to manage. And then they need to do the portal that manages all the portals. Now, how many of you have seen this one? I've been in companies where they said, we need one portal to manage all the portals. And then we have to write more software to manage our previous software. Isn't this fun? Just an ever increasing, ever consistent loop there of doing stuff over and over and over again. Okay, let's write some code. What say you? What say you, friends? Let's write some code. What do we have here? We have our 45 show app, and we'll do a quick tour before we start implementing stuff. So first and foremost, we have our .NET 5, I think it's a .NET 5 project. Do you remember correctly? Or 3.1? It's a 5. Awesome. It is a 5, so that's a good start. I mean, it does make any difference. 3.1 works with Microsoft.Identity.Web, which is good. .NET 5 is our short-term release branch, and then .NET 6. We have Preview 2 out. Go and have a look if you want to. It goes. It's exciting. Exciting stuff are coming. So I would definitely have a look at that. So here we have our project. What does it have here? It has a few libraries. Now you'll notice that it's using the ASP.NET Identity model. It does not use the Microsoft.Identity.Web. It does not authenticate against Azure AD. It has a local user database. We do not want that. We always want to have federated identity. No matter what, I would rather you have federated identity rather than you managing your own user databases. We talked about that a million times. And hopefully if you are using a federated identity system or an identity provider, you are using Azure AD or B2C. It's totally up to you. So for this one, we're gonna use Azure AD. And it should be a fairly easy transition. So in startup, you'll see that we have our DB context for the application, and we have a DB context for the identity, which I don't like. It's here. And then we have our data, which is where most of the code is sitting. So we have we have migrations for the episodes, we have migrations for the user data, which we don't want. We'll delete that in a bit. We have an application DB context, which we need to keep. Sorry, it's the episodes context that we need to keep. The application DB context can go away. And Azure AD authentication DB context. Whoa. SQL connection access token. Is that something I wrote in the past? Probably. Which branch am I on? We should be on main. We're on master. Okay. So I think the best thing I'm going to do is CLS here, and let's create a new branch. Git check out. That's B. What should we name this one? Modern auth. So that will, what? Oh, I went too far up. So we need to go into 45. Like what? And then we'll issue the same command now, and that should work. Okay, switch branch. We are inside modern auth. That's a new branch. That's where we're going to be working. Yeah, there's one use case though. If you live in the EU, EFTA, some customers require you not to have data on US clouds. That is absolutely right. And when you spin up your Azure AD tenant, you can also say where you want your data to be retained. So if you need to have your data outside of the US, you can do that. Azure AD, it's a global service. It's globally available, but the data can reside in a location that you prefer. So yes, I totally get that. But federated identity does not mean that you have to give up your data to a US data center. And depending on the provider they have, they should be able to support that, like Azure AD does. Okay. I hope that answered the question, my friend in Zimbabwe. Okie dokie. Now, what do we have here? We have T-SQL, that's for spinning up our app. I think first we need to test whether the application is working. And there is, in the app settings, we have a connection. Now, I don't have a local DB here, so that is going to fail straight away. So we may not be able to run this. Yeah, I don't have local DB because I didn't want to install Visual Studio. I have a VM that has Visual Studio, so the first time I was working with that, I was able to do it through my VM, but I don't want to spin up my VM now. I want to do everything on my local machine. So first thing we need to do is actually rip out all the old code that has to do with identity and add Microsoft.Identity.Web. So let's go and do this. What do we need to do first? First, we need to go into startup. And then in here, let's hide this so we have more real estate and we can see what we're doing. Will it work if I make it slightly smaller? I want to see if it looks good on the stream. It does look okay on the stream. Let me know if you can't see that one and I will magnify back, but hopefully it works for everyone. So here we're going to remove the services, add context there. We don't need that one because we don't want to use a local database anymore for our users. We don't want to have a default identity because, again, we don't want to manage users through there. And all we're left is our DB context for, this one I was using the interceptor. That's why I had that there. We will fix that in a bit. And yeah, that was how we did it with Julie. We were using an interceptor, which was the current way of integrating with Azure AD. So you would authenticate, you would use an interceptor, then the interceptor could go and grab a token and do everything for us, but we don't want that. So if we go back here, we can actually remove the interceptor because we're not going to be using this one. We'll be using, we're deleting quite a few things. So Bear with me. We can always revert back to the previous branch if we screw up, right? Okay, so we change these things so we don't have them there, but we still want authentication authorization, which we'll fix in a bit. And that is from the authentication perspective. Then everything else should work out of the box. Oh, we also need to change the views, but we'll do that in a second. So episodes for watching, and then we have insert. There should be a login parcel, which we will need to change a little bit. Yes, we will change that. So as you can see here, this one is still using the old ASP.NET Identity model, which we don't want to. I wish we could do a tick. Done. So we're doing the Microsoft.Identity.Web now. This is what we're working on. Adding Microsoft.Identity.Web on an older project, or one that is using ASP.NET Identity instead of federated identity. So all we have to do next is now add two libraries. And we can do it in several ways. Microsoft.Identity.Web is something that we have available on NuGet. So Microsoft.Identity.Web NuGet. So unconventional. When you go to NuGet, it tells you how you can install the package, right? But I usually like to do that. I don't know why. How do you like to add your packages to your projects? I am weird like that. Right, so down here, I want to say this, and then we need to install also the web.ui package so we can have the UI working for us. So I will save that, and hopefully Visual Studio will say, do you want me to restore these for you? If not, we can always do .NET restore. Determining projects to restore, which is good. So now we have our packages. Next, what we need to do is wire up the middleware, right? So there, at the very top, all we have to do is services dot add Microsoft Web App, Microsoft.Identity.Web App Authentication. And then there we say configuration. So it expects the configuration to come in. That's a bit weird. Doesn't complain about, you know what? I think OmniSarp is broken. Control Shift P, OmniSarp. Restart OmniSarp because I think it's messed up. Oh man, it's failing. What's happening here? Oh, okay. Is it working now? Seems to be running. And I don't have Microsoft.Web here, so I'm surprised that it hasn't complained about it. Let's save the file. Let's close. I might have to restart my VS Code. So when will Microsoft buy Discord? It's just sitting on my desk. I need to sign the check. It's just 10 billion. I'm thinking about it. You know, it's a lot of money. I'm just kidding. I don't know. Is that thing even going through? Like I heard the rumors. Allow. Doesn't VS Code have a properly working NuGet extension? I don't know. Does it have one? I haven't seen it. I think everything is driven through the command line. So I don't think you can go right here and say add package, right? Right. You go in the project and say add, open, yeah, see, doesn't. So no, you can use the command line, obviously. You can use the terminal and go .NET install blah, right? You know what? I think to be on the safe side, I'm going to restart my VS Code because I was expecting IntelliSense to work. Code.co. Right, let's see. Will OmniSarp behave this time? It's activating. It seems to be working. It's running. Ah, there you go. Yes. It's working now, see? Oh, you remember using it? Oh, there is an extension. You know what? I'm not big on too many extensions. I like the command line. I'm weird like that, but hey, whatever works for you. I'm not saying don't do it. There you go. Now we're getting the nice prompts. And it doesn't know that we have, oh, it's authentications, which is not in the namespace. There you go, using Microsoft.Identity.Web. That's what we need here. And then down here, we'll need to change this one as well to allow us to interact. And that should be changed to services dot add MVC options. If I remember correctly, and then down here we'll say add Microsoft, was it? Add Microsoft Web UI. Could I be right? Or is identity? Identity UI. So this is for us to work directly with the Microsoft.Identity.Web UI. Okay, so now I think we have everything we need. I like VS Code much more than VS, okay? Says our friend from Zimbabwe. But for C#, I think either JetBrains Rider or VS plus ReSharper with a beefy computer is better. Well, you just said it there. You need a beefy computer to run VS and ReSharper, which in the past it has come as a hefty price to pay, especially when I was working on contracts. To each their own, exactly. Use the tools that you like. I've used Rider before. I use VS Code. It's lightweight and it's easy to work with. It's very portable. Plus now you have code spaces. So if you are using code spaces, you get VS Code on the browser and you sign in with your user and you have your nice theme. Oh, it seems everyone is using Synthwave 84. That's JP's favorite theme. You gotta love it. VS with ReSharper. You need a quantum computer to run that beast. Yeah, that's true. And I think the problem came from the fact that at some point JetBrains decided to, rather than going with what is it? With our what's our underlying CLR? Damn, I'm forgetting my words this morning, and I am drinking coffee, so I should be sharper. Can you search the whole repo with code spaces? I think you do. Yeah, you can search the whole repo with code spaces. With ReSharper, you need a quantum computer. Yeah, quantum computer is just around the corner. I'm waiting to put my order once they go mainstream. I should be ReSharper. Yes, I should be. Quantum computers might not be enough. That is also a good point. You need close time, like curved computers. Yeah, the ones that can, freeze time so you can type your code and then it will compile it for you. Fun times. You guys are hilarious. Quantum computers for writing ASP.NET web apps. Do you not think it's a little bit of an overkill? Just saying. Okay, so we have wired our authentication inside our middleware. However, if we leave it like that, and I know it sounds super weird, it's going to use the implicit flow out of the box. And we need to work with our team to make Microsoft.Identity.Web to work with freaking authorization code and Pixie. And you can do that today, in fact. So if you do services dot configure, and you have to open that, it should be Microsoft Identity options. We might be missing a namespace here, so I don't know. Options. No, I didn't want those options. IntelliSense, you're being too aggressive. And then here, we want to say options.response type, I think. Okay. Microsoft Identity options. We may be missing a namespace here. should be open. Connect, no. Open ID connect. Response type. Code. And close. Then we have that. Uh-oh, too many. And of course, I map it because we already have it here. There. Microsoft Identity Options. Which namespace is that? Services don't configure. What does not like? Fix return type. No, I don't want to fix the return type. Yeah, let's say goodbye to the spaces that we don't need. Let's say goodbye to that. I don't want to use the policy. Wait. Episode.data. We probably need that one. Services.configure. Microsoft Identity Options. Okay. Hey, Dan Virsa. Dan Virsa. I hope I get it right. I have a noob question. I'm new to programming and currently doing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Perfect. We'll be moving to React soon. Okay. But everyone I spoke to hates .NET Angular for some reason. Since you do .NET, do you know why that is? Well, people do have a lot of baggage, my friend. So I wouldn't say hate, and hate is a strong word. Equally, people hate Java, but again, each their own. And I would say, no matter what you decide to do, JavaScript is fantastic for the front end because it has won the war, whether we want it or not. And then for the back end, I would say either Python, .NET, or Java is a good choice. Then it all comes down to what you like to work with. I really like C#. I've been doing .NET and C# since 2002 when it was first introduced at my university. And ever since I fell in love with that. Every language has its nuances. Every language will allow you to build something good, and also you can do something really awful with it. You can use or abuse the language to your needs. I would say knowing the internals of the language is probably good. So getting a good book on .NET to show you how to write good .NET code is important. Then using some architecture standards and practices is also good. So I don't know why people hate .NET. As for Angular, I think it's a general sentiment around JavaScript, the fact that things are moving so fast that it is a bit of a challenge to stay afloat. And Angular has also been fairly bad in the past by doing breaking changes to their releases. So when they went from one release to another on major releases, they broke backwards compatibility and people had to rewrite stuff fairly frequently. I think that Dust has settled on that now, however. So Angular is a good choice if you want to use that. It is heavy though. I mean, both React and Angular are both fairly heavy in what they do. So people prefer to write plain vanilla JavaScript if they have to, unless they are building something super big. Like, they need an SPA that has routing and caching and all the other tools that you would expect them to come with. So, people can say the same for other JavaScript tooling. Trust me, I don't think it's limited to Angular. I would say make an educated decision. Look around React, look around Angular, see what you like, and then again, you can write some fantastic websites and solutions with whichever language or framework you choose. It's a matter of doing it right. And I'm starting a new job in .NET Core. I would like to use Linux, but I see everyone is using Visual Studio on Windows. No, I am not. I mean, I am using Visual Studio here on Windows. I'm using Visual Studio Code on Windows. I could be using Visual Studio Code on Linux. It makes no difference. It works everywhere. So .NET Core is absolutely fine to work with on Linux. VS Code does not have as many handrails as you would expect in a proper IDE like Visual Studio. Some people like that, especially when they start early on, because Visual Studio comes with wizards and it can hold your hand as you do certain things. VS Code expects you to be a little bit more knowledgeable about what you're doing. And yeah, you can use other IDs as well, right? .NET Core works with everything. You can use Notepad, you can use VI. I mean, that I don't know why, but you can use VI, you can use Vim, you can use Emacs. Has anybody done .NET Core and Emacs? And you can use things like VS Code or JetBrains Rider or other apps. So you're not restricted to just one ID. Now, if you use Microsoft ID, it's even better, but I'm just saying. And HT Tech says the half-life of people's cherished opinions about software is shorter than ever. Yeah, true. So be careful about blanket opinions. People come with baggage, right? I mean, it's like I used .NET in 2007. It was awful. Okay, dude, it's moved so much since 2007 that you're probably not gonna recognize the language. That doesn't mean that .NET is awful. And same for Java, same for Python. You know, people have experiences and they tend to express them in some ways. I would say, have a look around, see what you like. Like I haven't done a lot of work with React, but from what I've seen, I prefer it over Angular. It's slightly more lightweight. React front end, C# in the back end. Yeah, that is a very good solution. Again, it's a very common these days to have a backend API that is driven by some like Java or .NET, and then have a lightweight front end that calls those APIs. And that API means that you can call it from anywhere you want, or F# and Fable, yeah, or WebAssembly. In .NET now, you can use WebAssembly to write front-end apps, single-page apps using C#. That is a fantastic technology. It's still not as mature as other frameworks like ASP.NET Core or MVC, for example, but it is something that gets people extremely excited. So I would say, don't knock it until you try it. Silverlight, somebody says. Yes, Phil Snubble. Silverlight. Let's bring back Silverlight. I heard comments that, or notes, or people's opinions that apparently WebAssembly is the new Silverlight with all the good parts and not the bad parts. What do you guys feel about it? Dart. Damn. Haven't touched Dart. Awesome Sandbox and JavaScript Sandbox are not the same in the browser, so be careful. About, I would say, declaring exact equivalence between WASM and JavaScript. Yeah, I'm not claiming they're equivalent. I would say it allows you to create single page apps using .NET, but it's not the same as writing JavaScript. And from my perspective, I still prefer a cleaner design, like using the native tools for what you're doing. So if I am creating a single page app, I would rather go with a mature JavaScript framework rather than use WebAssembly. But people like C# a lot, so if they can write front-end code with C#, they like it. There are a couple of options when you work with Blazor. You can do single page apps only without a backend API, or you can use a backed Blazor WebAssembly with a backend API all written in .NET. And then you also have server-side Blazor, just to confuse things, that allows you to create server components for Blazor with .NET. Then what are those drag and drop options in .NET? I thought it has front end too. It does. It has web forms. If you want to go and do drag and drop stuff, then you can still use web forms out there, and will allow you to drag and drop your components and build code very quickly. Web forms was one of my favorite tools. Did I say that out loud on the stream? And I'm seeing the numbers just dropping quickly now. I'm just kidding. Hey, don't knock it until you try it. Plus, web forms allow you to be super productive super quickly, building some fantastic apps. I mean, they had some bad designs and awful coupling between the front end and the back end. It was awful to test. But who did testing back in 2004 or 5, right? Pfft, nobody does testing. Do you use web forms or use custom code? Right now, if I were to build a website, I would not do web forms, to be honest. As far as the technology goes, it's still supported. You can run it today, and we have a lot of companies running web forms. But I don't think I would use that today. I would use custom code if the question is like, would I use a front end and a back end? I like the API plus some thin client in the front. Haskell doesn't have dependent types. Idris for the win. I don't know. I haven't done any Haskell. I haven't done any functional programming, by the way. So I am totally, I have no opinion on that because I have no knowledge. So without web forms, how do you build the front end in .NET? In modern like ASP.NET stuff, we have model view controllers, and the views allow you to create views using Razor, yes, the Razor UI. There are other, so you can use HTML and a combination of Razor to code these components, but it's almost the same as building something for Angular, right? There's no designer. They drag and drop things. You have to, work with a designer, and then you have to place the HTML elements, and then you write the code to interact with those elements, whether it's JavaScript or server-side code. I hope that makes sense. And I think if you are building web apps, you're not going to escape JavaScript. You have to know some JavaScript. So we prefer doing front end separately and do back end in .NET. My choice today, if I were to build something very quickly, it would be Razor Pages or MVC, because I have been in that domain for quite a while. But if I were to create a single page app kind of a scenario, then I would use React with and .NET API in the backend. In fact, maybe not even an API. I would use Azure Functions for my API if I have to, depending on where I'm running. Done a ton of Razor Page MVC. The file format is CSHTML, and it is interesting. Yeah, it is proprietary. Does .NET have a CMS system? Yes, there are. We have a couple of them. .NET Nuke. We had Umbraco. I think Umbraco is the most mainstream one, so I would say give that a go. Orchard, yes, Orchard. Thank you, Roscoe. Orchard, CMS as well. Or you can go back in time in 2007 when I wrote my own CMS. Oh God, that was awful. Right? Let's write some code. I don't know why this one is complaining. This is just super annoying right now because it should be working. I want to see if I'm missing any namespaces from up here. I don't think I need these two. We don't need these two. Authorization. Just trying to figure out if I am missing something. That is a Hail Mary. Yeah, I think I'm missing probably a namespace somewhere. Am I missing a namespace? Am I? I may need another NuGet package somewhere. I think that should be part of Microsoft Identity. Has that been moved? Am I using Identity Protocols OpenID Connect? Right, let's find this. Should be somewhere. Yeah, I can see the namespace here. We get some spam on the 45, so ban them forever. Okay, so why is this not working? Is it just my startup? Has this been moved somewhere else? Seems like it. Microsoft.Identity protocols. Where's that namespace sitting? Namespace, where I'm gonna find you. It says Azure, that's interesting. Identity, access management, no, Microsoft.Identity protocols, namespace. Azure? Why is it saying SDK for .NET? Interesting. Ah. Is that a reference to a different namespace? I'm stumped now. I know this worked with a previous version of. I wonder if that's been Microsoft.Identity.Web. Huh. It definitely doesn't find it. So why, oh why, can you not find me my type? Ah, isn't it fun? Control dot. Definitely doesn't find it there. Am I missing a library somewhere, or am I having, you know what? I will remove this one because I don't need that anymore. And then, what am I missing? What am I missing? So that is there. We have Core Identity Entity Framework, which we need. SQL Server Tools. We have Azure Identity, Microsoft Identity, and Microsoft.Identity.Web. I think that's all we need. Well, I'm gonna downgrade that to 0, because in the past I used a 0 and that worked. Let me just run a. Am I? Yep. .NET clean and .NET restore. Yeah, I wonder if still doesn't like it. God damn. I'll save this one. I'll open it. I wonder if it's just IntelliSense messing up with me. Sometimes it does that. It's definitely not there. So it's definitely not under identity.web. Is it that one? So Rasco says install package. You think? I didn't have to install a separate package before. I wonder if they moved it out of the namespace. Hey, Copper Beardy. How you doing, buddy? I hope you're good. Yeah, I'm stuck. Hey, I get stuck all the time. Right, let's go and install that NuGet package that Rasco sent us. I was not expecting that, to be honest. Why do I have that one open? Go away. So CLS here. Okay, I am taking your advice. Identity protocols? Nope. Oh, you know what? I think you're using the .NET add package Microsoft.identity model.protocols. What? Oh, is it .NET new package? .NET add. Should be .NET add package. .NET add package. Yes. Uppercase protocols for you. No, I think it doesn't find the command. It's not the. Yeah. You know what? It's okay. I'll find it. Is it .NET new? I can't remember. So, you know what? You get the rescue. I am. That's how I operate. Let's go here. Let's find the package. And then it will tell us the command. There. See, I had that. I stumped. We're in the right project, so there you go. Project file to operate doesn't find the project. Why? I only have one project. Add package. Add project. And what's our project name? Is it episode app? No, what is the project? It's episode app CS proj. Episode app.cs proj. What the? .NET add package name. Oh, it does need a version. Ah. Hey, I've done this a million times. Yes, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna paste the freaking package reference. That is just insane. Is .NET not working with me today? Doesn't like me. I feel offended. Determining what to restore. There you go. Making some progress. Package comes before the order of arguments. Alright, GL Conti. Yeah, I don't know. .NET add package and then CSProj. Okay. Well, I don't think that was the case because check this out. It's like add .NET add project package options. And I said .NET add project. Yes. Sorry. See? God. Driving solo is no fun sometimes. But thank you for keeping me straight and for bearing with me while we're fixing this problem. So now if we go back to our startup, still says remove unnecessary. I am telling you, there's something iffy here. Let's see, will it find it somewhere else? Still can't find the options. That is just insane. No, I don't want to fix the return type. Why does it? Configure Microsoft. What the? Microsoft Identity options, honestly. Microsoft Identity options class. Microsoft.Identity.Web. I'm telling you, they have removed it from that. See, it's in the Microsoft.Identity.Web library. And it is in the 1.2. Microsoft Identity options. Wow. Wow. Am I mistyping something somewhere? Am I being daft? Am I being silly? Did I mistype something? Services.configure Microsoft Identity options. Chasing the freaking golden unicorn for missing. Yes, thank you. And now we should be able to resolve that. Thank you. Done. Okay, so now we can use authorization code. Hey, we don't have to rely on implicit flow anymore, which it's the default option apparently, and I don't like that. Okay, we're making progress. Now we need to go and configure our app settings.json, and we need to add one for Azure AD. Azure AD. And there are a few things that we need to add in here, and I don't remember all of them from heart. Now, if you are doing .NET new web app with with one of the available options for identity, then it will create them for you. Now, since I don't have them, let's go and find one that I already have configured in the past, and we can play with that. Let's see, let's do Brady test. And here, I just want to open the app settings.json, and we just want to copy that, and that. So we'll close this one down. Did I copy the whole thing or just, oh, I copied the whole thing. So we're gonna log into our domain. We're going to use Microsoft.on.Microsoft.com. Then we need to go and find the tenant ID. Okay, we have that ready. So let's go home. We want Azure Active Directory. Only thing I hate about the authorization code flow and Pixie is that it is kind of slow, isn't it? No, it's not slow. It shouldn't be slow. I don't know where you got that from. If you have experiences with stuff being slow, then please let us know. It's just an extra step for getting the proof key code exchange. So there is an extra step there to go and acquire the key, but other than that, it should be absolutely fine. So I think I have an app here for the 45 so somewhere, do I? Yes, 45 so episode user. Is that the one I created in the past for the 45 show when we're working with Julie? I think I have some notes somewhere, so I should be able to go and grab my client ID because I want that. I don't want to go and recreate another one. I found it. So I don't know if you know, but we have an improved experience. Oh, did I delete that account? Oh, I think I deleted that account. Yes, I have. It's fine. We can go and create a new one. Why not, right? That's fine. New app registration 425 show web. And then register. And then authentication, account, add, web, yes. So it will be HTTPS localhost, so HTTPS, localhost 5001, and then sign in OIDC. In case you're wondering where I got that from, for the redirect URI, if we go back to our code, you'll see down here we expect that endpoint to be the same. So we'll use that one. So once we have that, we can say configure. I'm not using implicit anymore, which is awesome. And then we need to grab the appropriate information. So for that, oh yeah, we also need a client secret. We'll create a secret, 1 year, copy the value. You might say, Chris, you're gonna dox yourself, but it's fine. I am going to fix the secret later on and rotate it, so it should be fine. So for the client secret, do not mistype this one. I've done app secret before, and I was trying to figure out, or I think I put secret instead of secret, and guess what? It doesn't work. I was like, why is it not working? I know it works. I've done it a million times. So mistyping stuff can also cause your application to not work. Surprise, surprise. Client ID, we'll grab that. Stick it in there. Client ID here. And then we need the tenant ID, which is here. Sorry, too far down. And this is all we need to sign in. We can ignore the default connection for now because, in fact, we can remove the default connection for now because we don't need it. And then there's one last step to do to modernize our app, and that is to change the sign-in, the partial sign-in view, because at the moment it's using, we can remove that area, by the way. Delete. Move the recycle bin. We don't have identity anymore. We don't need it. So here, under pages, under shared, there's a login partial. And this login partial, let's close this browser here. Let's move it there. Let's close this one. We don't need it anymore. We might need it in a bit. So, in fact, I want Oh, this one doesn't have sign in? Third. Login partial. We're just gonna copy these verbatim and then we'll fix it. It should be exactly the same, so no differences there. So in here, you'll notice that this is the old code. It uses the sign-in manager and user manager, which we don't need to import. It also uses the old namespace, which we don't want, and will actually break our app. And if, in effect, it says if the user is signed in, show them the logout button. But if they're not signed in, show them the login button on the register. Now, since it's Azure AD, you can register. You have to be you have to be registered already inside Azure AD. If you are using B2C, then you need to have a view, or in the flow, the user flow, there will be a user flow for signing in and signing up, depending on where the user is coming from. So let's save this one. Let's go into startup. Did I remove something I shouldn't have removed there? Yeah, I think I removed something. One thing too many. So technically now we should have everything we need to run the app. Do we have everything we need to run the app? I don't think we need this one. I think we do. Let's take it for a spin. What do you guys think? Time to run it and see what happens. CLS net build. It's thinking about it. Succeeded. All we have to do now is just test it. So will it run? That's the question. .NET run. Cannot find a project or pass the path to the CSPros file. Testing? Who does testing? Oh, you know what? I'm in the wrong. That's why I couldn't uninstall my .NET add package without the freaking project, because I was in the wrong directory CD episode. So now we can run it. .NET run. Yeah, technically you should have tests. We're testing in production, you know? It's actually running. So let's go and see what happens. We should be prompted for a sign-in. Ooh, look at that, we're cooking. Which is great as well, because now we're just asking for basic profile, and then we're asking for offline access, which means that we're getting our ID token, our access token, and we'll say accept because that's our consent framework. We'll accept the app, and the reply URL, there's not much the reply URL configured here. Why? Really? Are we not running HTTPS 5001? Did I mistype something? Application 7E. Let's make sure that we're in the right app. Authentication. Did I mistype sign in OIDC? Localhost 5001 sign in OIDC. Did I misconfigure something? Okay, overview. It's 7E689. No, it's okay. Oh, did I mistype something? Okay, it's not my day for typing stuff, is it? Singing. Thank you. Sign in. I mean, I would have gone back there, but I want to make sure that I have the right configuration file. You would 1, 2, 3. You win today. Thank you. You guys are keeping me straight. You were working on OAuth 2. I'm just graduating next semester with CS, and I had way too many headaches setting it up. Right now, we're working on OpenID Connect with Azure AD. OAuth 2, well, OpenID Connect is built on top of OAuth 2, and right now we're not acquiring any access token for anything. So technically, we're still on OpenID Connect, grabbing an ID token for our application. And up until this point, we just configure what we need to do. So sign in. Do I need to? I saved that one, haven't I? Let's run it again and see what happens. Fine. I'll go back. Will it like it? I don't know. I might have to. Oh, it's working. Booyah. I wonder what will happen here. I can't remember if it's configured correctly. Will it work? Oh, that was an awful result, but I think we can find the error message in the logs. It will say something. Oh yeah, you know what? It can't access the remote SQL server because we're not authenticating to that. Yeah, so we're signing in for now. So no auth 2 at this point, but we will be working on that in a bit. So we have our, our Microsoft.Identity.Web is being added. It's been a bit of a trip. And I think we spent a lot of time trying to work out why I could not set up the code flow. And we all know because I am a Muppet. I mistyped soft and it wasn't there. Okay, so we fixed that one. Now we want to go and add the SQL client stuff. So in effect, what we want to do, let's stop this one. It's an expected error message, I would say, because we know that it's not going to work. So now what we want to do is we want to allow our Entity Framework to authenticate against our SQL server. So we have a SQL server sitting in the cloud, let's go back. I think that we need to be at home. We'll go to a SQL server, and underneath there we have a database. Is it database or database? In the UK we say database, but I think in the US they say database. So whatever works for you. And in this database we have our episodes. Now I have already configured my my permissions in terms of accessing it via Azure Active Directory. I have also configured my firewall. Please be aware that if your IP changes all the time from your test machine, you need to come and configure this one. So it does change. I've just added my local IP address and I've added the portal. So from the portal, I can go and configure or check my API permissions. And somebody in the past mentioned that, hey, by the way, you can actually use now the SQL client with Entity Framework, and it allows you to authenticate with Azure Active Directory managed authentication. So let me open this page and go through this one because it almost does what we wanted to do, but it doesn't do it perfectly. So with this, if you are in a machine that has managed identity, and that is any machine or service on Azure that supports a managed identity, a system assigned identity that can do stuff for us, then if you want to do that, and if you're running on Azure, then it's perfect. It works straight out of the box. In effect, you define the connection string, and then you say open, and we'll open it for you, and it's awesome. Right? You'll also notice here that it says Azure Active Directory MSI, and there are a few types of authentication that it supports out of the box. However, it's not going to work for us because I am not running on Azure right now, so I don't have a managed identity on my machine. And then the other problem is that if I am building this one, I don't want to have different logic or different code between building something on my local machine and using a specific connection string and then moving to the cloud and using a different connection string, right? Because I cannot change that dynamically. So we have to have a connection string for local, connection string for remote, and it is a little bit of pain in the backside. So if you go through the experience, you'll say they have integrated identity, they have interactive, if you want to prompt the user for providing information. You have a service principal account. So you can have a service principal that runs your web app, and then that context becomes available to you, but it doesn't fit our model. Now, there is a library called Azure.Identity that actually allows you to authenticate against Azure AD with a number of different account types. You can use the Visual Studio Code account I have signed in. So in this instance, I have my Microsoft account signed in already, so I have permissions to do that. You can use Azure CLI, you can use the Visual Studio account. There's a whole heap of credentials that you can use to provide a token for you. And that means that it also supports Microsoft identity, so managed identities for Azure. So if I were to use the Azure Identity Library, it means I can write the code once and provide the credentials to the SQL Server connection. And then I wouldn't have to worry about changing the providers, because the problem here is that I need to say to the connection, to the SQL connection string, what the authentication type is. And I don't want to have to change that every single time I change an environment. You see the problem now, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way down to custom authentication provider examples. And we're going to use this example alongside with the Azure.Identity library to provide these credentials. So I can authenticate once and then grab the token and then pass the token back to our SQL client, and everything should work out of the box. So how would we do that? I think first we need to go and create a new class to accommodate our custom credential provider. And unfortunately, there's no generic one. So there's no, like, if I were to create a connection string, there's no generic one. So you notice down here, it has like Active Directory device code flow. I would have loved for them to say, Azure Active Directory custom. So I wouldn't have to go and explicitly configure that. But for now, we're going to hijack the device code flow and we'll provide our own kind of credential solution. So the first thing that we need to do, I think, is to add the SQL client package. SQL Server Authentication, is it up there? No. SQL Server for ADO.NET. I need to go one further up. SQL Client. Microsoft's data SQL Client provides access. So this is the new one, by the way, right? This is a new library. New is library. Okay. So if we go back to NuGet, let's search for this one and see what we get. Which version do we want to get? Microsoft SQL Data Client. Okay, it's not showing you 50 million downloads. Provides the data provider for SQL Server. Okay. Who likes to live dangerously? Preview, preview, preview. Off the preview. Should we go and grab the preview? Is that the one that we should be using? What do you guys say? What should we do? I don't know. It definitely needs to be above version 2. If I remember correctly, if I go back to the docs, back. Whoa, 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 whoa. Why, how did we get there? SQL Azure Active Directory Client, Microsoft. Is that the right one? Is that the one we're looking for? Oh no, here it is. Like, how did we get there? So if we go down here under security, and then under Active Directory Authentication, it does say that it needs to be a specific version and above. Yes. So Azure Active Directory device code flow 2.1 and later. So I don't know if the 3.0 will be the right one. I will probably avoid that for now. And then let's go with the non-preview versions. So the latest one is 2.1. Where did the 50 million come from? Did not say, yeah, it has 50 million downloads. Damn, where are the other versions? Oh, you know what? It might be prior to 2.0. Yeah, it looks like it. Although 2.0 has 2 million, 2.01 has 5 million 7 months ago. That's pretty decent, isn't it? So let's go and add it. Code CS prods. Let's add it down here. And we already have Azure Identity. I added it before. Can't remember. Oh yeah, because we're doing the interceptor, so we're using that there. So save that one here. It should prompt us for a restore. Yes, let's do the restore. And that's all we need. So now, with that, we just need to go and create a new class. And we'll put it inside the data. I think that's, we'll keep things consistent. So we don't need the application DB context because that was for our users. We don't have any custom users. So let's go and add our new file. What should we name this one? Anyone has suggestions? Where did the file go? Did we create a new file? Or did I not create a new file? Okay, episode app, data, new file. Okay, so custom Azure SQL. It's an auth provider, right? So auth provider.cs. It's an empty one. So we need to go and do all the work. Let's go back into the code here, all the way down, and see what we need to do. So we need, let's grab these ones. I'll definitely grab that one, and using system. So we'll add this. I don't know if I need to add that. We definitely need using Azure.Identity, I think. Okay, because we'll use Azure.Identity in a bit. That's the whole point, right? Authenticating via the Azure Identity client. And then I need to add namespace. Which namespace are we using? I think it's episode data. Yeah. Oh, this one doesn't have a namespace. Interesting. Okay. And then in here, we need a public class. What do we name that? Rename. I am lazy. Public class. Missing command? What did it try to do? Which needs to derive from a SQL authentication provider. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, and then from there we want to what did it say? Implement abstract class. Yes, go and do it for us. So what do we need? We need two things. We need an acquired token async, and then we need is supported. Okay, how's that built in here? Acquired token async. So this is the one that goes and grabs. So this one is using public client application, but we're going to be using the Azure identity for authentication. So we need to create an authentication provider, and then we just return a SQL authentication token with a token and the expiration date. Okay. So this is what we need to return for sure. For sure, right? Okay. This is our return type. Here. Return new. So how do we acquire the token? We need a token provider. Private static read only. Are there any comments on the stream? Anyone asking anything? No, we're just doing Azure.Identity for now. So we don't need token credential. So with this one, we can now say that we want a token credential that uses the Azure identity. Let me close this one for more space, and we'll go with a default Azure credential. Do you think this is a good idea, or should we be a little bit more explicit about how we're authenticating? What do you guys think? Because the default will try to find anything that we have in the cache. And if it doesn't find anything in the cache, it will prompt us for authenticating. Where are the other half of the humans? Yes, trashing code, I know. Mr. JP was otherwise incapacitated for today. So I'm still driving solo for second week in a row, but it's absolutely fine. I'm hoping that he will be back next week with us. And for now, I hope I am enough. The half of the team, I hope it's enough for you to keep you entertained. Since I'm creating a SQL client that will authenticate against Azure for SQL using the Azure credentials. I'll do for now. Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's get on with our code. Let's see. So we have the credential, and as I mentioned, oh, it doesn't store that. So there you go. See, I was referencing the wrong namespace. It's in the Azure.core. Interesting. So we don't need to. Do we need to? And I think that is under Azure Identity. So if I remove that one, I bet something else is gonna break. No? No. There you go. Yeah. So good thing I called that namespace. I will do for now. Thank you, Mr. Adrian. I hope you're well this morning. I hope everyone is well this morning watching the stream. We're having so much fun. So much fun. So here we want to say, oh, we need a scope, right? So if we are going to authenticate via Azure AD, and if we are going to authenticate via the Azure.Identity library, we need a scope to say, just go and grab me an access token. This is where OAuth 2 comes into play. You would 1, 2, 3 as you asked before. So at the very top, we'll do private static string, read only, right? I'm going to change that. String scope equals new. And does anyone remember what the scope for SQL needs to be? What is the scope for SQL? What is the scope for SQL? Anyone? Don't think it has down here. It doesn't have it down here. Scope for SQL Server. It's not in here. SQL Server Scope Authentication. Will it say anything? What? Use Azure Active Directory Authentication. Does it have the scopes? Error. Anything about scopes? Okay. Create database scope. Okay, so this is not what we're looking for. So there's a scope for access data. Is this the one? I suspect that this is not the one. Nope. Oh, that's the one. Resource. Haha. We found it, I think. That should be the one. And we need to create a string here. So I'm not sure if we need to put .default at the end. So that will be an interesting thing. I'll put .default for now because it's not interactive, right? And then here we need to go and grab the token. And for that, var token request context equals new token request context scope. So we're saying I want to send a request with this scope, var token result equals, we'll use our credential object from up above dot get token async. So we should async that. Should we async that? Leave it there for now. Leave it there for now. And then we need to pass the token request context and defaults. Is it nulling out so I don't need to actually pass it in? Oh, I need to pass it in. Okay, so now technically we need the token dot result. No, token what? Fat fingers. token result even, and then token result here again. Not my day, not my day. How's everyone, by the way? Are you guys excited for the weekend? Got any interesting plans? Token result. You know what? I think access token does not contain definition for access token. What? Dot token. Ah, interesting. There's no access token, just token. Okay. And then token result. Result expires on. But I think we're not returning the right type. I know. I know. Haha. Aha. Okay. What is he complaining about? Aha. There. Okay. So that's that. Now, is supported. That's very important because when we define the connection string, it will try to find which authentication method we have. And if they don't match, it will break for us. So for that to work, gotta go to PDX. So you're going to Portland to chill with the family. Yeah, I know. First time we met in Portland, right? Man, I was thinking about that the other day. I did a user group talk on Tuesday for Birmingham, for the Xamarin user group at Birmingham, for my very good friend Dave Evans. And I met Dave on the plane coming to Portland. That was the first time I was coming to the US. I was super excited. That was back in 2016, I think. And this is when I met you. In fact, this is when I met you and Lana. And this is, I think this is also when you met Lana. So it's like it's one big happy story there, right? I hope you guys are good. How's the little one? And how's Lana? Say hi, by the way. I hope you're all doing okay. And the weather's looking okay for the weekend. So hopefully, yeah, you know, we were sitting on a table. It was Phil Hack. It was a few guys from the from Israel. It was me. It was Dave. It was you. It was Lana. And we had an awesome dinner. Man, that was some time ago, 2016, I think, for .NET Friends. Or was it 2015? I think it was 2015, wasn't it? It was 2015. I'll tell you why, because 2016, I joined Microsoft. And I had come to the US in 2015. And Atlas, yeah, the little one is doing great. Man, that's an amazing name, Atlas. The Side Door, I think, yeah, it was. It was the Side Door bar, restaurant. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, 2016, we did the 2-year of .NET Friends. See, my memory is not that bad. I'm not slipping away. Okay, so I think we'll just have a few more lines of code to implement and we're done. So let's go and see how that gets implemented in here. And we were inside the Azure Active Directory Authentication. So what does it say here? It says is supported. So in effect, as long as we, oh, no, I did not want to do that. I want to slide to the right. Slide to the right. Okay. No, I don't think that was good. So what we're saying here is to make sure that it is supported, it's looking at the authentication method of the connection string. And as long as it matches a specific one, it should work. And we are using, so we're gonna use the same. Remember, we said we're gonna hijack the device code flow, even though it is not device code flow, just so that we can have something to match. Because I think the other options are not good. Like we're not using a service principal. It's definitely not interactive. Yeah, you could say it's integrated. Could be integrated, I guess, but it's not. So also integrated, it's expecting a user ID. So I think the best one is the device code flow that doesn't take anything else. It just takes the database, the authentication type, and database name. So there you have it. Okay. Yeah, Greek deities. How would I know about them? How would I know? So here, technically, that's all we have to say. Copy paste for the win. And we're saying it needs to be device code flow. So now we need to adjust our connection string to have the same format. That's it. And then we just need to pass the appropriate settings inside our startup.cs. That's very important. We need to hook up our entity framework to know what to use for authenticating to SQL Server. Okay, so it's supported. We've done that. Let's save this file. We're done with this. Episode context, we don't need to change anything here. Julie said that any changes that we do need to go against the startup. So in here somewhere, we need to update this one to pass the right connection. So what does this do? This is there. Okay. What else do we have to do? Is that it? Oh, and the connection string. We need to change the connection string. But first, let's change this one here. So option to use SQL Server. I think DB context, then options, then inside options we have SQL, authentication, provider, set provider. Some namespace we're missing. That's good. Set provider. We need to open that one. We need to say SQL. I think it's the authentication method, isn't it? Let's go back to the code and see how we do it. Okay, there. Active Directory Authentication Provider, Custom Device, Code Flow Back. So we need to set the provider. We need to say what method. And then we need to pass the provider. So first we instantiate the provider. And then we pass it down here with the type. And then we just pass it into the connection. So let's grab that for now. Back to our code. Just gonna let's put it down here. Copy paste driven development. CPDD. SQL authentication set provider. Also where? We don't have a constructor on ours, do we? There's no constructor, so we can just instantiate that straight away inside there. We can new it up. Okay. So set provider. What do we need to pass here? I think we need to pass the set provider the method. So SQL Server Active Directory device code flow. And then comma new custom SQL Server provider with nothing else. So that gets us the provider. Now we need to pass the provider into the SQL connection. So what? That doesn't like that? And then say SQL connection var SQL connection equals new SQL connection. Whoa, whoa, IntelliSense, you're not helping out. So configure, you want to, what does the SQL connection take? The connection string and the credential. Okay, so the connection string will be from the configuration. So configuration dot get. There is a getter for connection string. So there you go, connection string, and then we need to just remember the name, which I don't remember the name. So to the rescue. Episodes context. Okay. And then we want the credential provider, right? And that would be options.use SQL Server What? No. And then finally options, use SQL Server with the right connection. Okay, so now we can remove this paste down here. And let's review what we've done. Let's see what the damage is. So we are instantiating or adding the DB context into the middleware. We are setting the provider. We need to match this one to our custom provider, which is expecting the thing to be the same. So we are expecting the authentication method to be that. Otherwise, it will throw an unsupported. There. And with that, hey, Bruce Lane, how you doing, sir? I hope you're good. We are just about to wrap the modernization of our 4 to 5 SO app that we built with Julie Lerman a couple of weeks ago. We did a few things, but with her, which were focused on the Entity Framework scenario, and we used the Interceptor. But for now, we wanted to go one step further. We wanted to modernize that even more. So we removed the local accounts. We added Microsoft.Identity.Web, and then we also removed the Interceptor for Entity Framework, and we used the new SQLClient library that authenticates for us using the Azure Identity model. So it can default to whichever account it is authenticated and then use that. So, and I'm glad to hear that you're fine. It's just the weekend, just before the weekend. So what do we have here? We have the final steps. There's one more step, which will be the connection string. So here we have the custom library that we built. We define the scope. Then we use the Azure Identity to go and acquire the credentials. And then we use the credential provider to go and provide the token back to the authentication service for SQL. And then we make sure that our connection string and the configuration match the type. And it is a bit of a hijack because we're not really using device code flow, but we need to use one of the options, and the other options were not really as close to what they needed to be. And with that, we have the custom library, and down here in our middleware in ASP.NET Core, in our startup class, we define our context, we add it to the middleware, then we create the provider, the SQL authentication provider for our context. Then we create a new SQL connection that uses the connection string that we passed in. And then we just say, go and use my SQL Server with that connection. SQL Server will look into the authentication provider, which we set just above. It will say, oh, you know what? I have an authentication provider, custom authentication provider. So we'll look for that to do the authentication. So last step before we start testing, actually there are 2 steps, but we have already done one. But I will walk you through that process. So the last step is to update our connection string, right? So right now the connection string has the right server, but see it has some security settings that we don't need. So we can remove that. And let's go back to our setting here. What did it say that the connection string needs to look like? Something like this database, authentication, blah, and then in fact for this one we need to be down here somewhere. So server equals my server. Let me grab that one. Come on, I want to just copy that. Doesn't let me do it with a keyboard. So with that information, let's go and update our connection string down here. So that down here. So let's say here, we'll put it down there so we can do a comparison. So we have server, our Windows blah, which is perfect. So that's okay. We don't need to use 1433. I think defaults to that. Then we need to say authentication is this. So we need to grab that. It's okay. I'll add that. And then database or database. is that. And with that small change, you see we don't have any credentials whatsoever. We don't need to worry about authentication because it's taken care of by Azure Identity. And the last thing that we need to do is, there is one more step, which I have already done, by the way. And that is to configure the Azure AD authentication for our SQL Server. Let's see. Customize Active Directory, Microsoft Authentication Library, Device, Code Flow, OAuth 2, using mass identities for Azure resources. I think I need to, no, that's just managed identities. But you know what? I think we need to have a SQL Server somewhere. I can't remember where I found it. Let me see. Let me check my notes, because I had some notes that should be able to help us with. Because I think I kept some notes the last time I was doing it. Where did I find that information? Azure SQL Server managed identity. Create a managed identity using managed identities with SQL Server. I think that's the one. Yes, that's the document that we're looking for. That's exactly the one. So here it says how to set it up. You need to, what? No, that's not the one I wanted. You know what? I found this Stream Analytics before and it was a little bit annoying. Is it this one? No. Using managed identities to access SQL Server. I think that's the one. Yes, that's the one. So why is it the same one as before? Stream Analytics. Why would I end up in the Stream Analytics? How is that coming up at the top? Yes. Okay, so once you create an account, like a managed identity or your local account or a service principal or whatever, you need to go into your SQL Server, and then you need to run these two commands: the create user, and that will be the username, whether it's my username or whether that's the service principal username, from external provider. And that external provider is Azure Active Directory, so there's no other external providers. And if it doesn't find the name, it will fail. It will say you can't find that. And then you need to provide the role member permissions. Maybe your app only needs read permissions, so you would use a data reader, but it might be a data writer, so it needs to both read and write, which is more the likely scenario if you're using CRUD, if your app is doing some CRUD with the server. So these two commands you need to run against your SQL Server. So if you're going to run them, you can just jump into your database. Your database, so it should be, let's go overview. Should provide me some database names. No, available resources. So there, right, SQL Server, SQL databases. So you would jump into your SQL database once it loads. Come on, you can do it. Wow. Everything is slow. You know what? I need to make my mouse bigger so you guys can see it. Or, damn, that is slow. Is my machine just not liking it? Show me my database. There you go. And then in here, you can open the query editor. You don't have to have any tools whatsoever. And you can run the set account and set the appropriate permissions here. And with that, you provide access to your database. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to access that. And since I have already done that and I'm running with my local account, I am hoping that this is going to work. So fingers crossed. Let's go and do this. Let's go and run the app because we have everything we need now. Database, that, window, context, secrets all over the place. Let's run the app and see what happens. .NET Run. Oh, what did we forget? What did we forget? Application DB context could not be found. Oh, you know what? I think I'm referencing that somewhere. Application DB context. Did I leave it somewhere in here? Oh, that. All these files and the data that we don't need. Okay, so here we can go into migrations and delete that folder. It was all the old migrations that we had from the previous iteration. Why is my camera so blurry? What happened to it? You know, every time I switch off my come on, you can do it. You can zoom out so I don't look like a Muppet. There you go. I don't know why my Logitech is crapping up like that. Okay. 15 minutes. Will it run? 13 minutes for the stream. It's building. It's running. Yes. We have a liftoff. I'm going to close my previous one. It will probably remember me, but it's fine. Control and click. It will open. I'm already signed in. And let's see. Just thinking about it. Boom. Done. Working. There you have it. Yes. Celebrating with the fact that we managed to do it in 2 hours. How is that for a celebration? And now we're pulling the data from our SQL Server, which is brilliant. Let's go and mark that task as done as well in our very robust solution. And when you say done, or also say done, done and done, done. And we did that, so done. I need a better one. I promise you I will get a better one for the next stream, so it will look much more with a theme, and I won't have to do that. We'll put it probably above my head so everybody can see it, and done. What did we learn today? That now, if you are using Entity Framework, you can remove the need for authenticating explicitly to that SQL Server by using a managed identity, or even better, by using the Azure Identity library to authenticate from your local machine. So in here, right now, I suspect that it is using my Visual Studio Code credentials, but we can quickly check that by me opening my CLI, AZ account show. So it is using my demo Azure subscription. That is not the right way. Which account is that? Oh, it's auto upgrade failed. Pi. So I think it's trying to upgrade my my Azure CLI. But in the meantime, you'll notice that I'm signing with a service principal, but I am in the wrong tenant or a different tenant. So it hasn't used this one. It's not using the account that is in the CLI. And for that, I suspect that it is using my account that it is already signed in with my Visual Studio Code. If you want to have an idea of how Azure Identity works out, how to do things, you can go Azure.Identity, default Azure credential. And in here, it shows you all the different permutations, all the different accounts I will try to find to authenticate for us. So I'm zooming in a little bit. And in here, you see we have a few options. And it will try to sequentially sign into all these. So we have environmental credential, which I would encourage you not to use that because you have to store information in your environments, and please don't do that. Managed identity credential, it's perfect when you're running on Azure. So the next step for us would be to, you know what, next Tuesday probably, we can take this app and push onto Azure just to show you how I would need to configure it. In effect, I would have to create a system assigned identity for that website, and then take that system assigned identity and add the permissions as we saw in this document here. which is not this document, it is this document here, and it shows us how to set it up. Where was it? Is it not this one? The mass identity one? No, it is not this one. Okay, where did we put it? Mass identity class options, I don't want that one. It is this one. So we will have to use this document, and I will add the links right below in the description of the YouTube video, so you can go and see what documents I used to build this today. So, so yeah, for next week, the first thing I will do in the first 10 minutes will be publish this app to Azure, take the system assigned identity from the Azure web app and assign it to our SQL server so we can access it. But that's it. I mean, it probably took us more time to go through the missing namespaces rather than write code. The code, all in all, were a few lines of code. We have 5 lines of code here. We have we have Microsoft.Identity.Web app here, which provides the authentication for our users. We did spend 2 minutes here because I was missing the missing angle bracket. Yay for me this morning. And this one is technically the setting for doing code flow with Pixie. So I would urge you to use this one when you use Microsoft.Identity.Web. And finally, there was one custom library that we had to create, and this is the custom authentication provider, which wraps the Azure Identity token credential to go and authenticate for us, and then it passes that back to the SQL authentication token, which creates a SQL authentication token with that information. So we need to have the right scope up here. Just make sure you have the right scope. And with that, it's a wrap. We managed to do everything end to end. I thoroughly enjoyed that. We have 5 more minutes. So if you want to ask me any questions or if you want to say anything, feel free to use the chat. Otherwise, thanks everyone for joining me this morning with my other half missing in action. And we will see you all next Tuesday. Let me see what we have next Tuesday. And before we go, I remembered we're going to raid someone this morning. We're going to raid Layla Kojet. How about that? Should we raid Layla? So before we go, let me see, who do we have for next week? Do we have anyone for next week? That's the other thing, right? Is there anyone coming next Tuesday for us? We do have our friend Yafet that is coming to talk about easy auth. And yeah, I know everyone misses JP. I miss him too. Separation anxiety. He's coming to talk to us about the easy auth integration experience. So he's going to be with us for 10 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and build some interesting stuff. We'll have some news as well for you. So stay tuned. Thanks everyone for joining us today. It was really good fun building this with you, and have a lovely weekend, everyone. Let's go and raid someone. Right, so first, raid from the Layla Kojet. There. Start raid. Yeah, Bond we can. That's a good point.